She was just a little girl, clutching an empty glass, her eyes filled with a hunger no child should ever know. In a world where some waste without thinking, she asked for the simplest gift, milk. But when she promised to pay when she grew up, the room froze. What kind of desperation forces a child to make such a vow? And why did the powerful man she turned to respond in a way that no one could have imagined? This is not just her story. It's a mirror held up to us all. It was a quiet morning in the heart of the city, but for a young black girl named Amina, life had never been quiet inside. She was only 8, yet she carried responsibilities far too heavy for her small shoulders. While other children thought about toys and games, Amina thought about survival. Her mother worked endless shifts, her father was gone, and most days their kitchen shelves were nearly bare. Still, she was full of hope. She believed that kindness existed, that people with more would help those with less. That belief guided her small steps into a neighborhood she didn't belong in, toward a store where wealthy men came and went as if money had no weight at all. To her, it wasn't just about milk, it was about dignity, about asking the world if she too mattered. But as Amina clutched her empty glass and entered that room, she had no idea the eyes waiting for her would see more than just a child. They would see her race, her poverty, and her place in a society that had already decided her worth. What happened next would not only test her innocence, it would expose something far deeper, something we'd rather not admit still lives among us. Amina's steps echoed softly against the marble floor, out of place in a world that didn't belong to her. The store was no ordinary corner shop. It was sleek, lined with polished counters, and filled with expensive goods she had only ever seen in pictures. The men inside wore suits, their laughter bouncing off the walls, their hands heavy with gold watches. To them, a glass of milk was nothing. To her, it was everything. She stood near the counter, clutching her glass, trying to make herself small, but eyes turned, not with warmth, not with curiosity, with judgment. The weight of those stares pressed against her chest. Whispers rippled through the room, sharp, cutting, the kind meant to wound. "Who let her in?" someone muttered. Another scoffed, "She doesn't belong here." But Amina kept her gaze steady, her voice trembling yet determined as she made her request. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for favors. She asked only for milk, promising she would pay when she grew up. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then came the laughter, cruel, dismissive, the kind that strips a child of innocence in seconds. The millionaire, a man draped in wealth, leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. He had power, not just in his fortune, but in the way others hung on his every word. He could have chosen kindness. He could have offered hope. Instead, he smirked. "Pay when you grow up," he said slowly, his tone sharp as a blade. "People like you never grow up to pay." The words struck harder than any slap. Amina's tiny fingers tightened around the glass, her knuckles pale. Her face burned, not just from hunger, but from humiliation. The room erupted again, mocking laughter, careless remarks, eyes that reduced her to nothing more than her race and her poverty. She stood frozen, caught between shame and courage. A part of her wanted to run, to hide from the cruelty, but another part, deeper and stronger, refused. She had come for milk, for her family, for survival. Running would mean surrendering to the labels they forced upon her. Her silence became its own defiance. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply stared back, her small frame radiating a strength the men could never understand. And for a brief second their laughter faltered, unsettled by the fire in a child's eyes. But the millionaire wasn't finished. His next words, his next action, would decide everything. Not just for Amina, but for everyone watching. The air thickened, as if the entire room was waiting, holding its breath. What would he do to a little black girl who dared to ask for dignity in the form of a glass of milk? The millionaire rose slowly from his chair, each movement deliberate, commanding the room's attention. His polished shoes clicked against the marble as he walked toward Amina, his gaze locked on the fragile glass in her hands. The laughter faded into silence, replaced by a tense anticipation that made every second feel heavier. He stopped just inches away, towering over her. With a cold smirk, he reached out, not to offer help, but to snatch the glass from her grip. It slipped, shattering on the floor, milk splattering across the pristine tiles. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the stillness. Gasps erupted, but not for her. No one rushed to comfort the child. No one offered her kindness. They stared, entertained, as if cruelty were sport. Amina stood frozen, her tiny shoes wet with spilled milk, her dignity scattered with the shards. Her chest rose and fell quickly, eyes stinging, but she refused to let tears fall. She had come here with hope, with belief in humanity, and it had been crushed in an instant. Then came the words, sharp enough to carve scars. "This is what happens when people like you dare to ask for more than you deserve." His voice carried not just power but prejudice, reinforced by centuries of cruelty. It was more than rejection. It was a verdict, spoken before a crowd eager to nod along. In that moment, Amina's world tilted. The hunger in her stomach became secondary to the deeper ache of being told she did not belong, that she was less. Every eye on her burned like fire, not one offering compassion. She was small, poor, and black, and here, that was all they chose to see. The room waited for her to break, but as the silence stretched, something else began to rise within her, a quiet defiance that even shattered glass could not erase. Amina left that store with nothing in her hands but everything on her shoulders. The glass was gone, the milk denied, yet the memory of that moment would weigh heavier than any hunger she had ever known. She walked home in silence, her small feet carrying not just herself, but the sting of rejection, the echo of laughter, and the cruel reminder of where society had placed her. For the men in that room, it was just another day, another spectacle. But for Amina, it was a wound that shaped how she saw the world. It taught her too soon that sometimes, no matter how innocent your request, the color of your skin decides the answer. She was only a child, yet she had been made to feel less than human. And this is where her story reaches beyond her. Because Amina is not alone. Her glass of milk is the job denied, the school doors closed, the glance of suspicion that follows someone through a store. It is every moment when a person of color is told, through actions or words, that they are worth less. But here's the truth. Silence in the face of injustice only feeds it. Every time a child is humiliated, every time a person is mocked or dismissed because of their race, we are given a choice. Do we look away or do we stand up? Amina's defiance, that quiet strength in her eyes, is a challenge to all of us. To see her not as poor, not as powerless, but as a reminder that dignity is not given by wealth or status. It is a right. So ask yourself, how many more children must carry this weight before we decide to change the world they inherit?